Hey folks, how's it going? Thanks for checking out the video. It's here, the natural language DAX generator for Power BI. Let's check it out. Okay, so this new feature was released as part of the October 2022 Power BI desktop update. I've referred to the feature as natural language DAX generator, but that's not what it's officially called. Officially, the feature is referred to as quick measure suggestions. But what does that even mean? Basically, it means that artificial intelligence can now write DAX for you. Before you can check this feature out, there are three things that you need to do. Firstly, it is a preview feature, so that means you need to enable it in Power BI Desktop. To do that, you need to go to File, Options and Settings, Options. In the Options pane, navigate to Preview Features. And then in Preview Features, find the Quick Measure Suggestions option and enable it. That'll prompt you to restart Power BI Desktop. Next, you need to make sure that you're logged into the Power BI service. You do that in the top right hand corner over here. Selecting that will prompt you for your credentials. The artificial intelligence that's going to generate your DAX operates via the Power BI service, which is why you need to be logged in. That means if you've downloaded Power BI for personal use and you don't actually have a tenant where you can log in and share content, you're not going to be able to access this feature. The last step involves the tenant settings in the Power BI service. Now you may not have access to this, so you may need to speak to whoever does have admin access in the admin portal. What you need to do, over in the admin portal, in tenant settings, scroll right to the very bottom and you'll see these options down here. Now that first setting, allow quick measure suggestions, allows you to switch off this feature completely. That is enabled by default. However, the second option, allow user data to leave their geography, is something that you'll need to switch on. As you can see, applying that setting may take up to 15 minutes to take effect. Now the reason for that setting is because the servers that currently run the artificial intelligence are only available in US territories. If, like me, your Power BI tenant isn't located in one of those territories, in order for Power BI Desktop to access that AI, you need to allow user data to leave your geography. So for this, you might be at the mercy of your IT and security departments who may not be comfortable with enabling that setting.
One eternity later.
Once you've given those settings a chance to be applied, you can dive in. Now I will caveat, this is a preview feature, and on top of that, Microsoft have also labelled it as experimental. This is just a first look, and I'm sure there are bound to be some snags and issues. But let's jump in. So you'll need to have some data in your model. I've uploaded here a version of the Contoso retail dataset. I've stripped out all the measures from this file, so it's a completely DAXless file. The option you want to select in the toolbar is up here, Quick Measure, and then you need to select the Suggestions tab. And then you use this pane here to describe the DAX measure that you want and go from there. So let's give this a go. I'm going to ask for total sales and I can hit generate. Now I've been deliberately ambiguous there. I know for a fact in my model I've actually got two sales amounts. So I've got sales amount and sales quantity. And the AI has given me two suggestions here. So it's gone for a total sales quantity and the DAX is giving me a simple sum. And then I've got a second option down here where it's actually showing the sales amount as a monetary value. So that's a good start. I can now add that to my model. Now for me there's a bit of an annoyance here at this point. Firstly, it hasn't given me any choice over where that measure gets added. So it's added it to my factor table over here. But in fact, I'm somebody that much prefers to have my measures in a measures table. So a little disappointment that it doesn't give me that option. The other thing is that it's added it with a default name of just measure, which really isn't any use to anybody. So straight away what I need to do is I need to rename this. Let's try some other variations. So I'm going to ask for total sales amount last year. Okay, so at first glance that seems to have generated some sensible DAX. A couple of observations with this. Firstly, it hasn't really formatted my DAX very well. Secondly, it has referenced that measure that I already created, but it's also prefixed it with a table name. So from a best practice DAX perspective, when you're referencing a measure, you shouldn't normally include the table name. So a little bit disappointing that it does that. Also, it's cropped the DAX. So this looks like it's going to use the same period last year, time intelligence, to get me last year's sales. But it's only partially displaying the result of what DAX is actually there. So in terms of me previewing and validating that DAX, I can't quite tell. Let's try something different. Let's go for year on year total sales amount. So the difference between this year and last. Okay, so here what we can see, it's actually suggesting a year-to-date sales measure, which isn't what I've asked for. I've asked for year-on-year total sales amount. And I get some funny behaviours with the UI as well. So again, this is giving me two different suggestions. It's giving me a total year-to-date version, again with a bad DAX formatting practice there. There's a second suggestion down here. Now this one's interesting because a couple of things. It gives me this show more option, so I can actually expand that to see the full amount. I'm not sure why that's missing from the first suggestion. It's also formatted it how I'd expect, so the formatting looks much better there. But also it's created a brand new measure to some of those sales amounts. So rather than referring to the existing total sales amount measure that's already there, it's calculated from scratch what total sales amount is, which is a bit strange. Now, if I change the wording of this, so let's go with total sales amount, but then ask it to be year on year afterwards, and hit generate. Okay, so this time it seems to have understood the question better. It knows that I want year over year change, and it's even picked that up as a percentage type. It seems to have done a much better job of formatting the DAX. It's even clever enough to start using variables as well. This suggestion has given me the show more, so I can see the full DAX for this one in particular. What I do find frustrating though is that this DAX seems to be displayed as an image, so I can't actually select it. So for argument's sake, if I wanted to grab that DAX, copy it into a different tool like Tabular Editor or DAX Studio, I can't actually do that. It's being displayed as an image. So a couple of good results, which were impressive initially, then a few poorer results and perhaps a few kinks that still need ironing out in that user experience. Now, using this feature does come with a health warning. Even Microsoft themselves in the documentation include a paragraph explaining that quick measure suggestions are not a replacement for learning DAX. You still need to be able to validate your DAX because the suggestions given might not be producing the results you actually want. So this isn't a shortcut or a way to avoid learning DAX. You still need to put time, effort and practice into getting better at it. And for me, that begs the question, who's this feature actually aimed at? For DAX novices, it feels dangerous because they may unwittingly put DAX into their model that doesn't do what they're expecting it to do. And for experienced users and DAX wizards, do they really need it? From a personal point of view, it doesn't quite fit my workflow. If it's simple DAX, I can knock that out, write it out without thinking about it. And if it's something more complex, I'm far more likely to use something like DAX Studio for writing, testing and debugging those DAX measures. Do I think I'll use this feature much? Right now, I don't think so. That doesn't mean it might not be beneficial for some other people. It'll be really interesting to see over time how the feature improves and evolves, and whether or not it might eventually find its way into my Power BI armoury. I hope that's been useful. As always, if you've got any questions or feedback, please use that comment section below. Really interested to see what you do think about this feature. If you have enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to follow along for more Power BI content from me, please do subscribe to the channel. Thanks once again for watching, and I'll see you next time.